After 2 months of waiting, ReZero is back. It was a bit of a calmer episode, but it was most certainly worth the wait. The episode opens with a very cathartic scene, and I think it does wonders given what happened last episode, especially with small details like Subaru immediately blushing upon seeing Amelia's face. Amelia was going to scold him for his strange behavior, but then she saw his face. This is something that I've always been a fan of, but I really like that Subaru's an ugly crier. Maybe not all the time, but it makes his emotions feel a lot more real. Overall, I think this scene does a really good job at letting us breathe, and take a step back from all the overwhelming challenges that Subaru has to face. Moving forward, this loop, Subaru decides to tell their group of his amnesia, which makes a lot of sense this time around. For starters, it was a lot harder for characters like Ram and Echidna to believe in him last loop, when he decided to reveal it so late, thinking he was making an excuse or trying to trick them. He gains a lot more credit this way, deciding to immediately be honest. He also has a lot more trust in everyone else, especially Amelia and Beatrice, with them having risked their lives or sacrificed themselves to save him. A lot of stuff was cleared up in his mind last loop as well, and this air of isolation starts to fade. Honestly, with this new perspective, you could see how much of a burden that pre-amnesia Subaru was still holding alone, despite him knowing that he should rely on others more. Obviously, it's not that simple, as knowing something and act upon it are two different things. Most of the cast has a pretty similar reaction to Subaru's amnesia as the first loop. I mean, Julius makes the same exact face. He does frame his amnesia a little differently though, as it would be pretty hard to pretend that he doesn't know any of them. With Ram, Subaru takes the initiative in his conversation with her, and it goes a bit different. After getting it bashed into his thick skull several times, he understands why Ram is particularly angry about his amnesia, and why she tries everything in her power to deny it. She gets especially pissed at Subaru for putting on this heroic act, as I believe she sees it. I think it's an important angle to look at this scene with, because in a way he is acting, trying to act the way that everyone sees him as. I'm not saying that it doesn't come from the heart, but this is what he believes his duty is to everyone, his obligation to be the Natsuki Subaru that everyone needs, not the liability that he was seen as in previous loops. If the other Subaru Natsuki could clear the tower, then he needs to be that Subaru Natsuki. As we've seen so far, this Subaru is a different person. I mean, they obviously have the same sort of temperament, something innately about him that makes Subaru Subaru. He's not a completely different guy. However, the way he got to this point, this mindset, is different to how Subaru would get the conviction and will to see this tower through. This leads on to the next part of their conversation, where Subaru needs to do a lot more convincing to show Ram that he could be the person to do it. And I think the effort he put into his speech was able to do that. Not that he's super capable, but he has all of his heart in it. I really like the slap she gives him here. I feel like it eases the pressure that he was putting on himself. Similarly to what Amelia says in episode 11, Subaru was never a person with all these amazing qualities. He has his flaws, and I think Ram is a great person to point that out alongside Amelia. I do really like their choice of music here, and Ram says this rather poetic line at the end of their conversation, that Subaru is a flower buried beneath the cold snow, that Subaru was never truly gone in the first place. That, in time, this wonderful person will come once the snow has passed. Moving forward, I like the little trick here that they did, making it seem like Subaru died in the same way, reminiscing on the person he was and how he had come to this moment. Here, we finally learned that Meili was the culprit behind Subaru's murder. After all, she was one of the most likely this whole time. It was easy to rule out a lot of the other characters given episode 8. The only characters we couldn't hear in the conversation when Subaru got pushed were Shala and Meili. I mean, obviously it was impossible for it to be Julius, Beatrice, or Amelia unless there were some external circumstances. This coupled with the fact that she acted differently based on whether she knew about Subaru's amnesia or not. I think Subaru acts a bit differently than he would without his amnesia. He's quite chipper despite what she was about to do. I think pre-amnesia Subaru would take it a bit more seriously, and that's because I think he values his life more. And this is important because there's still a lot of differences between this Subaru and pre-amnesia Subaru. I believe he's definitely not learned some of the very important lessons that Subaru has. With this conversation, Subaru chips away at Meili's cheerful mask, with the understanding of her character that he gained from her Book of the Dead. In two different ways, Meili had chosen the easy way out. One, as Subaru explains, the habit of murder, which she had learned from Elsa to use as a solution. And then, when there was seemingly no escape, she attempted suicide. Honestly, the way this scene plays out reminds me a bit of episode 7 in season 1. Specifically the part where Ram asks, what could Subaru even know about her and Rem? However, Meili is so reserved and broken from her past that she decided suicide is the best escape, believing that emotional vulnerability is much more painful than death. I believe both of these things relate to Subaru pretty well. From the very start, Subaru has always been the one to take the easy way out, at least in the beginning. Of course, when murder becomes a habit, pretty easily relates to this situation. But also, Subaru, who carries a lot of his burdens alone, and who is isolated, also used death as a way to escape his emotional pain, rather than opening up to the people he needed to. Of course, the situations aren't exactly the same, but I think these parallels are pretty intentional. Subaru modeling himself after Kenichi, Meili modeling herself after Elsa. Speaking of which, her flashback is a little different from how we saw the Book of the Dead. This time, it doesn't have a sepia filter, and the narrator isn't Subaru. It feels less like an invasion of her life, and it's a lot more personal. Continuing on, I like the line where Subaru says, "It's a Natsuki family weight to barge right into the hearts of others," as it's very much in line with what he does across the series. I think this show does a really good job at framing Meili's situation, because despite her complexities, she is still a child, who is extremely impressionable. The way that the Emilia camp treated her was a little neglectful, to say the least. Obviously, again, it's more complicated than that, but I'm glad Subaru got that wake-up call. In many ways, Subaru across the series has become the person that he needed most when he was growing up. Letting kids learn for themselves is important, but there's a certain point where you need to step in. Parts of the show like this are why I find some particular jokes very distasteful, because it reduces very important parts of the series as something weird, which is just not in any way. Anyways, this line from Subaru here is very interesting to say the least. The episode ends on a sort of upbeat note, but there's still a long road ahead. Subaru doesn't know why he lost his memories, why the tower was collapsing at the end of those other loops, and how to get past Rita Estrella. Overall, I think this is a very strong comeback episode. It wasn't flashy or exciting as some of the previous ones, but I think it does a very good job at setting up the rest of the arc moving forward. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe to our channel. If you have any critiques or anything to say at all in this video, you should comment down below. Thank you for watching.